two big kit shows that we have here. The one in Buena Park. That one is held 3 times a year,
Yeah, I'm coming to the
and
next one.
I've been going to that since I was 5, 6 years old.
Oh, okay.
And back then it literally was just a bunch of guys getting together, to trade kits. And so, as a little kid with $5 in his pocket, I'd be able to get 25-cent models at this show and build them up and play with them in the backyard. And even when I kind of took off, from building a lot, I would still go with my dad. It's a thing that we were always doing, and pick up a kit occasionally here and there. But also, there's guys selling, books and ephemera and stuff. And so I concentrated on that for a while. But the last 3, 4 years, I've been back into building and getting kits, and really started focusing on the vintage stuff. And that's where the majority of it comes from, is from that show. There's another one by a guy named Herb Deeks.
We're getting some feedback. Somebody needs to turn their volume down.
I'd be able to get 20.
There we go. Okay. Whoop! You just disappeared, Eric.
I just disappeared.
Well, while you find your way back, I'll kick off the intro real quick. We've been live for a couple of minutes now, but guys, hey everybody, Mike's Models here in my new blue studio with Steve and Eric from Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Ken's at a wedding, so unless he skulks away, he won't be with us tonight. And so anyway, first off, let's get a quick voice check. Can you guys hear me? Then Eric, if you can give me a count.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And Steve?
2, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, and we're running a bit of a lag here, so I'll have to give a second for everybody to make sure they're hearing us. But anyway, Eric, you were talking about the Buena Vista Park. Why don't you start from the beginning about the history of that? Because I plan to be at the one in March. And your camera fell over. Oh, there it is.
The show started out sometime in the 70s. My dad found out about it probably from like Brooker's Hobbies or something like that, and it started out in some little strip mall place, and it moved around various different places over the years and got bigger and bigger. And that's where a lot of the kits that I have, the vintage kits that I have now, come from that show. You get, I don't know, 40, 50 vendors showing up. The show's I think like 3 times a year now, and there's another show by a gentleman by the name of Herb Deeks, who was a bigger name in the model car field.
Yep.
He puts on a show a couple times a year as well. A little smaller, but still a good source of picking up vintage kits. The other place I get, occasionally I'll get them online. The problem with online is the shipping cost. You'll come across, oh, hey, there's a good Aurora kit for $20. I'll get that, but then they'll want like $15 to ship it. Now it's the tax, and now it's a $40 kit, and it's not such a good deal no more. So I pretty much just kind of hold on to my money until till one of the big show comes around, and load up on that.
I missed Model Palooza this year. I just had too much going on, and I know me. I go on the last day when everybody's getting $5 a kit, and I come home with a bunch of stuff that I hope I live long enough to build. But I am planning on being in Buena Park in March with Mike Machat and probably with Jim, and I hope a bunch of Blue Troopers will come out to that if they can. I'm really looking. I've always wanted to go to Buena Park because I hear it's really a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, before I even knew who Mike was, as a kid, seeing him, at at almost every show, selling something, and occasionally he'd have a painting, behind him, and I had no idea that he's the one that painted the painting. And so, eventually I figured out who he was when I went to art school. Had some aspirations to be a commercial illustrator, and joined the American Society of Aviation Artists and went to one of their annual events, and then saw Mike Machat there, and I was like, oh, you're that guy that
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yes, we definitely orbit in lofty circles. So, Eric, you'll notice I put out the few Lindberg kits that I have, and I believe you wanted to guide our initial discussions around Lindberg.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about, what would be a good topic, and it seems to me that Lindbergh kits just don't get a whole lot of love, and I think contrary to that. I think that they're just as good as just about anybody else was making kits in the 50s. Um, if you compare what they were putting out, to Aurora or to Hawk or to even Monogram and Revell in some cases, they're putting out just as good a kit, if not better.
Well, I
At the
have
time,
a theory about that. That you're right. In the 50s, they were. I think where Lindbergh fell down was in the 60s. A lot of the companies started making better kits, but they kind of stagnated until later on. Now, when Totiff took over, George Totiff, I built the Lindbergh Ram Charger. That's as good a car kit as I've ever built. And I was like, wow, I did not expect that kind of quality from Lindbergh. But then I looked at, that was after Totiff had taken him over. And of course, he'd run AMT. But you made a comment in the pre-show about why does Aurora get so much love when they make, because I've got a bunch. I've got the Aurora C119 and the 141. And as much as I love building them, they are horribly, they're crap on detail. A lot of the measurement dimensions are wrong. But I think, and I'm trying to start an argument here. Hey, Trey, I'm trying to start an argument here. So I think that Aurora got a pass on the low quality because, one, they made everything. The monster kits were beloved, which blinded the people who loved that stuff and maybe didn't even build any of the other stuff. They made every sci-fi spaceship. If it was out there, there's a solid chance Aurora made one, no matter how bad it was, and they were affordable. Okay? Yeah. So, the old saying, you can have it fast, you can have it right, or you can have it cheap. Pick two. Aurora went with fast and cheap.
Yeah.
But I think that's why Aurora gets all this love when Lindbergh gets castigated, because I remember building some Lindbergh kits that were just total abominations, and this is in the late 60s when everybody was making better stuff, and even in the 70s. But then they started coming out with some really good kits. Their Stearman was excellent. Their SE5 was excellent. But one thing that ticked me off as a kid was you would get these huge boxes with this tiny model in it. I always felt like, maybe it was just because they just wanted to make one box. I don't know. But I've got some of these kits up here. I've got the XB70. And I already opened up the Skyray and looked at it. I got this like $10 at JaxCon. And it actually looks like a pretty decent kit. Not overly complicated.
I've got a different theory.
Okay, let me hear your theory.
My theory is that Aurora stopped making kits in the 70s, and the guys who were building them in the 40s or the 50s and 60s, kind of stopped building around that time as well. And they don't exist anymore. They're not producing them. A couple of the molds, they ended up this place or that place. But the kits themselves disappeared. They actually stopped producing a number of their kits at some point, while they were still making kits. They say like the ME109, right? They weren't making that in '72. They stopped making that somewhere in the '60s.
Well, they're just selling off stock.
Well, because it became completely uncompetitive with the market by that point. Right. Whereas Lindbergh continued to produce the same stuff the entire time. Mm-hmm. You can walk into a hobby shop right now and still get their F-80, which was their first aircraft kit, from 1947, and that's still on the shelf today. It's been in production the entire time. And so in the late 60s, as everyone else started kind of moving forward, they weren't really bringing out any new stuff until, like you said, until the till the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you had this 20-year gap of them just rehashing these old molds. Everyone else was moving forward, and so I think the kind of dismissal and disdain of Lindbergh occurred in that era. And
Well,
it's kind of stuck there. But if you were actually to, compare a Lindbergh kit from 1955 and compare it to an Aurora kit of 1955, the Lindbergh kit is usually way better.
yeah.
It's on par with even Monogram and Revell.
Well, some of those kits are what I call Godzilla kits because they're monstrous, but they won't die. You can't kill them.
Well, and even Monogram.
Wow, we're only 10 minutes in before I said Godzilla.
Issuing those kits at some point, but Lindbergh just continues to do it.
Now you build mostly aircraft and military. Do you do cars also?
Not really. I had a period where I built a lot of NASCAR. So
They
I
don't
built
count as cars.
Yeah, I was going to say NASCAR is anything but a car, and it sure as heck ain't stock.
Yeah, I built a lot of the Monogram ones. You got a lot of aftermarket decals. I pretty much just built everything to either be a Dick Trickle car or a Bobby Allison car.
I have a new theory on NASCAR. It's not true NASCAR unless when the race is over, the driver puts his family in it and takes them home, takes them to McDonald's on the way. If you're putting your family in it, it's a stock car.
Yeah.
Because a real stock car, you buy it at the lot.
Car stuff is those. So a lot of the Monogram stuff. The AMT Matador built that one, or not AMT? Was it AMT?
Yeah, it was AMT.
The AMT, the
Yep.
Matador.
Yep.
Built that one a few times. My first NASCAR kit was my dad got me the Penske Allison race team.
Yeah, with the trailer and the
With the
Chevy
trailer
van.
from, I think it was a Chevy trailer.
Chevy van.
See, and
In my Chevy van, and that's all.
so built a few of those, and an occasional MPC. Some of the old MPCs I'd pick up for doing some of the older builds. Some of the old Bobby Allison red and gold Coca-Cola cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are good looking cars, man.
Did you ever buy a model, especially as a kid, for no other reason than the box art?
Oh, most of them were that way. I got suckered quite a bit.
I must have it. Mike Machat was talking about this very box. It's a Linwood, about all the things, all the cheats he pulled and all the things that were wrong.
Yeah.
I don't care. It made me want it so bad.
The moon is
about to collide with us.
Sitting on the backside of the earth.
But I was like, I swear. But the Lindbergh kits, my brother and I used to we held our nose if we had to buy one, but sometimes they were the only thing out there. Ironically, I think we bought more Lindbergh kits than Auroras, and the Aurora kits weren't always that cheap. I remember seeing their 737 airliner, and I loved the box art on it, but it was $2, and I was like, I don't have $2, so it's the Monogram 148 scale for $1, and hot dog, a tube of glue, and maybe one jar of paint.
Well, I was also thinking of the comparison of, say, some of the. Recently I've done a couple of little bit later issue Lindberghs. Like there's the ME262 that they did.
I built that not that long ago for a kit bash we did. This that's actually not a bad kit.
No, it's not a bad kit. And I was thinking of, because it does have, the movable features, the same thing with like their, the Heinkel. It's got movable features and stuff. Unfortunately, they tried to make 1/64th a regular scale. Failed, so that certainly affected this kit down the road.
Let me tell you about that Heinkel. I built that some years ago. I got it in a lot purchase or something because it's the one with the Russian front artwork where it's in the white with the black squigglies all over it. In the artwork, it's more or less on a profile. And I was the basic kit, the airframe shape was okay. It fit great. What I hated about it was it even came with a little bomb trolley and a bomb.
Yeah.
You know what I hate, and one or both engines actually had an engine inside.
Yeah, it did.
But what I didn't like about it was, it's got that glass greenhouse canopy, and the cockpit was literally a slab, a yoke, and a little seat. There was zero detail on the inside. So what I did was I frosted it all over, made it like a Russian front winter snow scene. But the basic kit itself actually didn't have any real deficiencies.
Well, and it's like I compare those to, the monogram, like the Navy series.
Mm-hmm.
They had the moving parts.
I've got it.
Those the cockpit detail on those was non-existent. It was usually
the same for the Zero, where there's the pilot glued with the side instrument panel.
He's got a stump out of the back, and that's it. You get a decal that, or maybe
you got a generic decal to stick on the instrument panel.
Stick on the instrument panel.
But when you put the canopy on it, you couldn't see any of it, so you just
But those kits are beloved.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone just talks about how awesome those things were. It's so wonderful, blah, blah. And I agree. I mean, I love those kits. One of my favorite kits of all time is the Monogram SBD. I love that kit. I built that multiple times. But, when I was doing the ME262, I'm looking at it going, this is on par with Monogram's quality, the working features, all this kind of stuff. But you don't hear people waxing nostalgic about, oh man, remember that Lindberg 262? No one's saying that kind of stuff. Everyone waxes fondly about the Dauntless.
Yeah, I have built this kit. This is one that Mr. Van Osh sent me. I have built this kit, white box, ones with artwork, probably 6 different boxes. I probably built this kit 8 or 9 times, and I may have gotten the bomb dropping feature to work once. But you're right that all of these monogram models, and I have built them all. I've built the Avenger several times. All of these, okay, and every one of them has a pilot glued to a firewall.
Yeah,
or a back plate with a decal instrument, and that's the sum total of their detail. But the thing is like I say, it's all in plastic, so I can't. But when you put the canopy on it, and get it all painted and everything, you can't see anything, so you get a pass on it. Now, what happened with I did a video in the old Tarbis a few years ago, which I actually for some reason had to look at recently to get some information, and because somebody talked about the Monogram Zero. Now, it might have been you. I think you did a Zero recently, didn't you? In the old box, okay? What had the silver paint job on it?
Yeah.
I think you're the one. I forget if I emailed you or whatever, but I went back and looked at a build. Now, mind you, I had gotten this kit on eBay for like $5. It had been heat deformed, so the wings were like, they had a pronounced downward curve. I tried heating them and everything else. I couldn't get it out, so I just built it as was. But I show a photograph in there because I was comparing it to the Tamiya roof that I was building at the same time. Now I realized comparing a 1950s vintage Monogram to a 1980s vintage Tamiya, is not a fair comparison. But Tamiya had this beautiful 6 or 7 piece cockpit with a decal and everything, and a great 3-part pilot or 2-part pilot that I'd painted up. By my standards, I had painted them well. And then I show the Monogram, but the pilot just wedged in the side and one of the instrument panel. But when the planes are all closed up, but the roof you could pose with the cockpit open, which I did, so you could see the detail.
Yeah.
What's embarrassing is that they're both within a few dollars of each other, and I'm like, come on, guys, trying to get $22 for the old Monogram kit with no detail when you can go for $29, you can get the roof because it's an old Tamiya mold.
Yeah.
But buyer beware.
All 3 of those kits that you held up, they're at my hobby store for $15 each.
Go get them. That's a good deal.
Yeah. Somebody had an
estate sale?
They were cleaning out their grandfather's stash who passed away.
I'm so afraid of it. It's like, man, $15, go get them.
Well, that's definitely been happening. You know, I don't know if you're experiencing this back east, but a lot of these vintage kits prices have come down considerably. I mean, there's the holy grail stuff, that's maintaining high prices, but like the average kits, the prices have come down considerably, and I think it's because people who've been sitting on these things are no longer with us, and they're getting dumped on the market.
Yep.
There aren't very many people younger than us that are interested in this kind of stuff.
Yep. Except for Gavin.
So in the 80s and 90s, when these prices started going up, there was a lot of guys who were feeling nostalgic and were paying money for this stuff.
Now, see, here's an opportunity.
It's dropped considerably. I appreciate it because now I can get more of them again. But
I think you're right.
Here's an opportunity. We could start a company when your elder kit collector relative passed away. We can melt down all his plastic and make his coffin out of it.
Talk about taking it with you.
Yeah, I was going to go get the Jeep Sarah Jane was talking about because I had it on, but all that stuff's been moved out to the TARDIS now. So, yes, and that's the nice thing about those little Tamiya Jeeps like the Mutt. They don't have engines or anything, so they're pretty straightforward to build, pretty quick if it's the one I'm thinking of. But you're absolutely right, Eric. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I hate to say it, but I'm not exactly sure how to word this, but the vintage kit collecting as a hobby is aging itself out. We all wanted to build them as kids, so we still have an attachment to them. Some of them maybe our dads or older brothers built.
Yeah.
And as we get old, we're the group that's willing to pay $300 for the kit when we wanted so bad that was $3 when we were a kid. We appreciate the Holy Grail kits, but there's, with the exception of people like Gavin and a few other young guys and gals out there who are building models who have an appreciation for the old stuff, you're right. The market's dying out. It's kind of hit the top of the wave, and now you're coming down where these huge collections are coming available, and there's just not enough people that are interested to buy them. Yeah. The same thing's happening with classic cars. My nephew was a shop teacher for years, and now he's actually, I think he's a principal, but he was telling me, because he's built several cars. I mean, that guy can do with a wrench and is amazing. But I told him I wanted a 66 or 67 GTO convertible, but their things are in good shape, or 40 grand. He goes, wait a few years.
Yeah.
He goes, the prices are already coming down.
Yep.
Because there are dream cars, but the generation and a half behind us have them, and I'm not knocking young people, times change.
Yeah.
But, I know a lot of people, young people between 18 and 30 that either didn't get their driver's license till they were 18 or 20 because they didn't need it, or they don't even have one.
Yeah.
Or they just got it because, and I was like, we've talked about this before. Our generation, we were all standing at the DMV on our 16th birthday with our wet, driver's ed certificate in our hand.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if you're going to see prices going up on an '83 Civic.
Yep. Probably.
The first Acura Integras. That was what, '86? I think when the Acura Integra first came out.
Well, I bought an '86 Honda Civic. It was the first car I bought new off the lot because my old Malibu that I love so much sucked a valve pulling into the dealership. So there wasn't a question about whether or not I was buying a car.
Well, Frank Swain just brought up
years ago, Meekum and those things were all full of muscle cars. And, you got a Hemi Cuda going for $200,000. And everyone's going. They're selling for more than a Mercedes, 1932 Mercedes SS or something like that. It was just insane prices were going for these things. Now it's petering out. But I guarantee you, in the next 10 years, you're going to start seeing an Acura Integra selling for $100,000 at one of these, events.
Nothing would surprise me.
That generation is going to have the disposable income, and they want to get that Integra they couldn't get when they got out of high school.
Craig Swain just said it's hard to sell classic cars to a generation that can't drive stick.
Not wrong. He's just not wrong.
Well, in California, we may not even be able to drive anything that involves gasoline at some point. Here, so.
Well, there's a quirks in the rules, though. Now, here's some. If a car, 25 years old, it becomes a classic?
Yeah. And
you got to register as such, it falls in a different category?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if they get out of hand with that, what you're going to see in California is the price go up on the old cars because you'll still be able to drive them as classics.
Yeah.
Well, look at what they're doing with people who bought EVs and hybrids. Now they're charging them more to register their cars. There's $150 to
because they're not paying any gas taxes.
Right. Yep. Because they're not paying gas tax.
So they push. Why don't you do this? It's good for the environment. Yeah. And then when they do it, we're going to penalize you for doing it because you're not paying enough gas tax.
Now we don't do politics here, but I will make one comment that, and then we'll keep it, and that is, and this doesn't matter what party you're in or anything. This is not a partisan thing at all. People say they want these things like like electric cars and all that stuff, and then they get it, and like you say, the tax revenue drops. They go, and they're kind of like, look. It was just a talking point so we could sound morally superior. We didn't really care.
Yeah.
We need your money.
The other thing that just happened here in California, I don't know if this happens in Florida, but most of your electric vehicles got a little sticker you could put on the car that allowed you to drive in the carpool lanes. And there got to be so many EVs with so many of these stickers, and the carpool lanes were backed up just as much as the regular lanes. And in some cases, you'd be driving past cars stuck.
You need a kit model of an EV, and you got to put a little yellow sticker in on the car.
So just last month, I think it was, first of the month, all EV stickers are null and void. So you don't get the free pass into the carpool lane by yourself, and I can pretty much guarantee that's going to affect the sales of EV vehicles.
The way
selling point.
Notice, no one has made a model kit of an EV.
I know that. I was just wondering about that when I said they get an EV model. Like, I don't think anybody makes one.
Nope.
And if they do, it'll come out of Japan.
Wait till the first model Prius starts showing up at car shows, because those suckers are 20 years old now.
Yeah. Oh well.
The Honda Insight, man, you gonna see that parked next to a Chevelle?
Oh, God. I bought an 86 Honda Civic, brand new, off the lot. Like I say, I sucked a valve pulling in, so that was... And it was the year they put the third tail light on. It became mandatory, which was weird. So I had the first car with the third tail light. I beat the life out of that car. And drove it for 9 years, I think. It really didn't put that many miles on it, but it were rough miles. Delivering pizzas, courier work, got hit several times. The car got hit in parking lots all the time. Must have been hit 3 times. And every accident that car had, I was stationary. Every one. Got hit in a parking lot. I'm sitting waiting in traffic. A lady behind me slides into me, hits me. The thing was a bumper magnet. I don't know if anybody makes a model of the 86 Honda Civic. But I got to be honest. If I was at a car show and I saw a pristine 86 Honda Civic, a certain part of nostalgia would make me want to get it, And then that surprising amount of room, it looked like an egg, And it was as big as I am. The car was actually reasonably comfortable.
Oh yeah.
But does anybody make a model of the '86 Civic? I don't think so.
Hey, there isn't a Japanese maker that makes a kit of that?
It might be Aoshima. They make a lot of obscure stuff.
Somebody's got to make it.
I'm wondering what kind of acid they're dropping at Aoshima headquarters, because they got like sushi trucks and all these weird models, vending machines, and I mean, I got to admit they're kind of cool, but at the same time, I'm like
the ones that made models of musical instruments too.
Yeah. But see, I can actually kind of see that, especially since my wife makes the dolls are almost the right scale. Well, my wife has trouble finding for the dolls is the right scale of weapons. Of course, 3D printing is changing all that. But
I just picked up a Japanese made 1/3 scale M1 Garand. And it's from like 1967 is what I was able to figure out. It's a company I'd never heard of before. And it's a nice little kit. I'm going to be doing a review on that one pretty soon here, but it's nice. It looks like you may actually even be able to cycle it.
Well, I have. It was given to me. Steve, you were with me when we were down at Desertland, and Glue Trooper showed up and gave me that. He gave me that full-scale plastic kit model Derringer that he built, the 2-barrel Derringer.
Yep.
Now, it's right here. I can see it. I don't think you can see it because it's so dark back there. I would get it and show it to you, but the algorithm would freak out if I fondle a boomstick and might shut us off. So anyway, I think it was who was it Pyro or LS that made those things? But I'm like, wow, it works. I mean,
Pyro.
Pyro, yeah.
Pyro.
I mean, the guts are in there. You can cock it, pull it, you can open it up. It's got little fake bullets that go in there, and I keep it right up there on display.
I did the Pyro Dutch flintlock pistol. And that was functional. As far as being able to cock it. And
I wonder if their Luger does the same thing with that toggle. That if you find that kit, I think it's gotten pretty expensive. Those 1-to-1 scale Lugers.
Yeah.
But
it's like those. I don't know if you remember in the 60s and 70s, there was a company called MGC or Model Gun Company out of Japan that was making pretty exact replicas of World War II-ish weapons. They did a few Western stuff, a couple World War I stuff.
Oh, is this the same? This is the same company we know as Replica Arms?
Yeah, they were in the back of almost every magazine.
Yes, I actually had some of those growing up.
I'll show you the list of stuff.
I've been to their corporate headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia.
Inexpensive, but those suckers go for big bucks now.
Replica Gun Company, Replica Models, had their headquarters, their U.S. headquarters in Alexandria, which is where I lived. And I went there, and they actually sold me some of their broken stuff for like $5. You can hang it on the wall. It looked fine, but the guts didn't work. And I bought like a Peacemaker and some other. Well, my brother actually collected those. They're made out of a heavy gauge of zinc, I think, But but for my birthday when I was like 14, I got their 1911 A1, which I played with that thing until it fell apart. But I'm very familiar with them, and they're really big in Asia. They said one of the biggest collectors was Bruce Lee, because he was a gun buff. But now I know Lee was Chinese, but in Japan there is zero private gun ownership.
Yeah.
Okay. So they collect these things instead. They're safe to hang on your wall because if some boogeyman steals it, you basically got a cat pistol.
In the 90s, I used to do World War II reenacting, and one of the events that we had, we staged a Pacific War, battle, and there was I want to say about 30 Japanese collectors had flown out as a group to come to one of our events. And it was like a kid in a candy store. They were actually able to fire, live, guns. Of course, we're firing blanks, but they can't, they couldn't do any of that stuff in Japan, And so they were just so excited. I mean, they were renting every automatic weapon that the guy that has all the de-wadded weapons. They rented everything that guy had, man, and they were out there just blazing away through all these blanks.
Yep, it's but you got to understand, for these people, that's a bucket list thing, So that's another thing that was real popular with a lot of people that come to visit the U.S. is driving muscle cars. There are places you can rent a muscle car, and they've seen them in the movies. They actually get to drive a GTO. And the problem with people who are coming over from Japan or Britain is that they're used to right-hand drive. So, take them out to the track where there's nothing to run into. Yeah. But right down here in Orlando, you can drive a tank. It's a small one. It's a little British Actually, it's an armored reconnaissance vehicle,
Yeah.
but it's got a turret and tracks. And if you want to pay the extra $600, you can crush a car. And
Well, Vegas is what, 3.5 hours away from me, and there's a few places out there that you can do that stuff too. You can go out in the desert there, and you can actually fire the main gun.
Oh yeah, they let you fire a lead slug out of the 76. Yeah,
yeah, and pretty much any.
But you have to fire the main gun from outside the tank with a lanyard, because it's still an 80-year-old breech.
Yeah.
Here down in Orlando, Kissimmee, we got the Mustangs.
Machine guns and all kinds of stuff. And there's even one of them I saw the ad for where you could fire, an M60, I think, out the side of a helicopter while it's flying, shooting the M60 at some ground target thing. Yeah, you can actually do that in Vegas.
Yeah, if you're willing to pay about $3,000, they'll probably let you go off the chopper at night and see if you can stalk and hunt down some wild game with a night scope, nice and illegal like it. I'm joking. We don't do that. But they do have in Kissimmee. They've got a TF51D, which is a manufactured 2-seat Mustang, not a P51 with a back seat. It was manufactured by North American with a 2. It's got a full instrument panel, front and rear, the long canopy, the tall tail. Lee Louderbeck, I think, is the one who's instructing in that. Yeah, I think he's the highest time Mustang pilot in the world. And they've also got T6s. In fact, they had some in St. Augustine. Guys out in Santa Fe have jets, early Korean War, T-33s and stuff, and Albatrosses you can get time in. Yeah, you can do all that cool stuff here, and then you go home and make a model of it.
Yeah, but in Las Vegas, you can drive supercars.
Yep.
I think in Vegas you can rent them, take them out on the street.
No, they got a
You can do
track.
just about anything in Vegas if you got enough money.
They got a track out there. You can rent them and you drive them on the track.
Well, we've got,
one
over
time we went out for CES, and me and one of the product manager kids, we rented a Viper for 24 hours. And I thought we were going to have to buy a set of rear tires by the time we got done with that thing.
Yeah. Well, there's in Long Beach over here, Porsche built a training track.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one in Atlanta.
When you buy
It's in Carson.
Porsche,
Yeah.
They give you, this training thing so you can learn how to drive, these higher performance Porsches and not kill yourself.
Yep. It's a Porsche experience. I brought a fellow who worked for me who had a Porsche. We went there one day when we were out seeing a customer in the LA area, and they have a restaurant there and everything. We had dinner there.
Oh, yeah.
They have a whole shop. They have all these cars in pieces. It was great. It was really good.
And what it's next to is a storage place for nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I complain about the neighbors. I won't complain about the noise because they're too busy complaining about the radiation.
Yeah.
So,
and it's next to the Goodyear blimp.
Yep.
So, Buena Park. What can I expect to see when I go there?
Pretty much just about anything. You got some guys who will get 3-4 tables and specialize in one thing. There's a couple of guys that are just real heavy into nothing but cars, and it's just all car kids. Some guys are all airplane kids. And then you got some guys who are just cleaning out their closet and just getting one little table and just selling off their stuff. There's always a couple tables of stuff that you're like, why is that here? Just kind of odd stuff. There's always 1 or 2 guys who are bringing some sort of product. Like, oh, hey, I got a new X-Acto blade. Something like that they're trying to promote.
So it's kind of like any of the conventions you go to, the model conventions. It's just the vendors only instead of model displays.
Yeah, but there's a couple of guys who will have, they're like a U.S. distributor for is it Valorum?
Volum.
Yeah, there's a guy that I think is a U.S. distributor for Volum, and so he's got 2 or 3 tables of nothing but those kits.
Oh,
so it's a way of getting it without having to pay shipping and tax or whatever. But the majority of it is secondhand kits. There's a lot of this kind of stuff, not as not as prevalent as it was back in the 70s and 80s, but you can still there are a lot of kits that I end up leaving behind because I just I can only bring home so many, but sometimes I'm having a hard time choosing. Do I want this Aurora kit or do I want this Revell S kit? So there's quite a bit of that if you want it, and but the majority of what you're going to see is going to be 80s, 90s, 2000s, kits of various different makers. Big stuff, guys. I saw the last show. There was somebody that had a 132nd scale B-17 for like $500-600 or something like that. I mean, it's huge. I don't know.
I saw one of those built at JaxCon. You need to put an entire card table over there just for that one.
I'm like, it's an amazing kit, but where the hell are you going to put that?
Well, since you brought that up, allow me to tell you something that's going on that you haven't heard and you're hearing it here for the first time. And that's about the 132nd scale CF-105 Aero. Now, I did whisper that into the ear of a Tamiya executive, and he did write it down. I don't know if there's been any movement there, but Ken told me that he does have a file to 3D print one. And I want to say, if memory serves me right, Ricky Wolf, who builds a lot of resin, he does them like professionally. Big stuff, 3-4 feet long. He sent me a link for this putty material that's made for like you put it on a resin to make the medium smooth out. It's like putty for model, only it's made for the big 3D printed, for the 3D printed stuff to work. So because I didn't have a lot of luck with that, it just didn't adhere right to the medium. It would just come. You'd sand it and the whole thing would just come off. But anyway, I think a 132nd scale. Now I have a love affair with the Aero. I admit it. In fact, I thought if I get my hands on another Aero kit, I would put it in U.S. Air Force ADC markings, Air Defense Command markings, and I would label it Convair's Nightmare. Because the U.S. aviation manufacturers freaked when the numbers on that airplane started coming out. And you realize this airplane was flying when cars had tail fins. Okay. The President of the United States went and browbeat the Prime Minister of Canada to shut that program down. Eisenhower sat in a boat fishing with Diefenbaker and basically we'll give you Voodoos, we'll give you Beaumark, we'll give you all these great toys, you just need to make that thing go away. And when he did it, what's the next thing that happens? General Dynamics, Convair, North American Convair, they're all up there hiring all those Canadian engineers, and a few years later, you start seeing all that technology making its way, and I was like, that's America. We're capitalists by God. If we can't design it, we'll buy it from you.
But what really killed the Aero was Sputnik.
No. I tell you why I'll argue that point. What killed the Aero, there are several things. Cost overruns, all the usual military stuff. But I think what really killed the Aero was the absolute freak out of the American defense industry when they were not about to let the Canadians, or anybody for that matter, get the jump on us, right?
I would disagree with you on that because we had aircraft that were in development as well that were of that kind of performance or better that ended up getting canceled. Like the F-108 Rapier.
Now you just touched on something.
The mission that it was to fulfill was deemed to be unnecessary because the thought of, there's going to be a huge missile gap. The CIA was predicting, that the Russians were going to have, 1,000 ICBMs within 5 years or something like that, and that bombers were gone.
Well, that came along more.
It turned out to be wrong. They didn't end up having as many missiles as we thought they did, and then we end up having to still continue making air defense, interceptors, and so then you had like the F-106, still lingering along a lot longer than it ever needed to be.
Well, the 106
and the Canadians needed to get something, so hey, F-101s or Voodoos are will serve the job, but the other part that killed it for Canada as well was that nobody else was willing to buy it. Not even the British.
Now you see, that's where I was going to go with that.
The cost of how many of the Canadians were going to buy was
not worth it.
100 of them,
yeah.
And it made it cost prohibitive for them to do it.
Well, you see,
and the perceived threat was diminishing. They thought it's not going to be bombers anymore. We got to defend ourselves against missiles, and that's where the Beaumark was supposed to satisfy that. And so, yeah, I think you're right that Eisenhower was browbeating the prime minister, but it wasn't because you're going to mess with our aviation industry. I think it was more, hey, here's what the real threat is now. Stop wasting your money on this stuff. And you need to get a decent missile defense, which they had none. They had nothing on the line. They had nothing they could produce themselves to be able to do it because they went all in on the Arrow because that's all they could do.
But let me counter a couple of points. The defense industry wasn't worried about them making the CF-105. When they really freaked was when the United States Air Force started looking at it and said, we might consider procuring that because, as you said, everybody's working about international sales because that's where the real money's at. Now, the 106, I don't think anybody else operated the 106, but airplanes like the Phantom and all these others, which people forget, these airplanes are pretty much more or less contemporaries. But
yeah,
they were also worried about the Iroquois engine, which basically did get called now as a SNECMA. Now, to be fair, as they say in Letterkenny, to be fair, this same kind of cutthroat BS happened, but within the United States between the different companies. So it's not like it was that's one we need to knock out, kill it in the crib. Yeah. But the other thing that killed the Arrow was, like you said, they had to have foreign sales. To have foreign sales, they had a working airplane. What they didn't have was a working missile system and fire control system.
No, yeah, they were banking on
the Navy Sparrow,
U.S. Navy technology with
correct.
The Sparrow.
Now, when that went south on them, now they had a real problem trying to justify it. But the reason I don't buy that yes, there was no system to go in at the moment. But as you mentioned, there were systems on the horizon. But that airplane had such a large payload bay, and such a big nose, that another system could have very easily been retrofit on it. Yeah, and exactly. It would have been a natural reconnaissance aircraft also. It could have carried a massive fuel tank, camera suite, and radar. So the airframe had a lot of potential, and it was ahead of a lot of its contemporaries. I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that far ahead. The big thing it had over planes like the 106, which, by the way, this was intentional, was 2 engines, because the Canadians knew that an engine failure would be death to a pilot in the Great White North. Because even if you got out clean, there's no. So they insisted on 2 engines. The 106 was a single engine, had less payload capability. Depending on how you configured it, it had less range. They were both about the same speed. But what the 105 had over, because the 106 was a dedicated, was never anything but an interceptor. Pure. The CF-105 was more in tune like the F4. It had a lot of potential for other missions.
But none of that had been explored.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, you could take that airframe with the Iroquois engine, especially with modern tech, and you could outfit it with modern goodies today. It would still be a viable platform today. Of course, so would the Phantom. For that matter.
You could say that about the F4 Phantom.
I was going to say, you could say the same thing.
The Phantom,
but I'll tell you what the CF-104 would have been more. It would have been like the F-111 because everything was stored in a bomb bay.
Yeah.
And but I think the Canadians definitely batted way outside their weight class on that. I'm amazed how successful. Some of that technology is more or less still around today. And now you also have to remember, I'm a hopeless romantic. So I don't look at what was, I look at what could have been, you know.
Oh yeah.
And the airplane's so beautiful. You know, an airplane that pretty has to be made just for the aesthetics, you know.
Well, it's the same thing with the TSR-2. Yeah, I mean that's got this like, you know, romanticized idea that was like the greatest aircraft ever made, and it was, you know, the white paper that killed it, and oh, we could have been the completely dominant, you know, aircraft in the world. Yeah. And it was good. You know, there were certain things about it that were pretty great and stuff, but, you know, things changed. You know, the Buccaneer ended up doing basically its job at low level. You know, because a lot of these aircraft, missile technology killed so much stuff, like the XB-70.
The XB-70 was killed by missiles. Yeah,
that sucker's going Mach 3 in 1955.
Which, in my book, is reason enough to build it right there.
I mean, that was an amazing aircraft.
So, okay, we've already beat this horse to death. How about we talk about vintage model kits?
Okay.
All right.
You can take that weedy little Buccaneer.
Unless you guys have your own channel talking about competing planes that were never built. But anyway.
All right, here's some more Lindberg love. The Skyray.
Eric, who did those packages, Eric? Who did the artwork on that?
That's Gadek, I think.
That's Ray Gadke.
Or Gadke. Okay. Can never say his name right.
Yeah, Ray Gadke did a lot of the box arts, a lot of airbrush. But man, I mean, his stuff is just sexy.
That's a good angle on the airplane too. It's a nice cram the box artwork.
Yeah, and then when you look at the kit, you know, it's.
Yeah, this is one of their more impressive kits.
I mean, it's a nice kit. It's got functional features, but it gets the shape done well. It's got, you know, heavy-handed with you know, these giant rivets and stuff that you see with other makers.
Oh wow, this puppy's still in the plastic.
Yeah, it's a good looking kit.
And it's got this side panel so you can see the engine.
Yeah, it's even got the engine. So you can open up the side panel and see the engine that they give you to build, with an afterburner, you know, as well. You know, as your engine and afterburner. And one thing that I did find always funny is that, man, they love to load the things with rockets. Almost every one of their kits has got, you know, a dozen rockets to slap.
Who doesn't love rockets?
But I mean, it's a nice kit. How well you can see this, but I mean,
it's nice detail.
That's nice detail for 1955. You know.
Yeah, this was definitely. The problem is they put their dinky little SE5 in the same box.
So they were actually fairly consistent with their scale before most other people were. They were producing a lot of this stuff was all in 148 scale. You know, until they went off and started doing that, you know, that 164 scale they tried to push, that didn't take. They were doing fairly consistent scales too. This one here is a Reebok.
Well, that's like the Japanese are trying to push the 140 scale for a long time.
Yeah. So here's an Aviation.
Now that's the one that doesn't have. I actually have the Pegaso copy of that built on the shelf out in the shed. You know, there's no clear parts or anything. Yeah. It's just a shell.
Yeah, just like this one in the CB had these solid windows, but the origin of this kit was with somebody else. It was
Olin.
And the first versions of it did have clear parts.
Did have what?
The very first issue had clear.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. So if you can find the first issue, the Olin issue, it's got clear parts. So I mean, this is, you know, some good marketing on behalf of Lindberg to, you know, box it this way with the little cellophane window. Everyone talks about Matchbox. Oh, your little window of magic. Well,
At least you can see what you're buying.
55.
Yeah. Now, we were talking about the B-70, the plane they should have built just because it's so beautiful.
Yep.
And it actually looks pretty good. I mean, I don't see any real problems with it.
I was amazed when I saw the real plane.
How big it is.
There's my B-70.
That it was much smaller than I thought it was going to be.
You thought the B-70 was smaller?
Yeah.
I thought it was bigger.
I was expecting a bigger plane.
Oh, it's huge.
I think it's enormous. He thinks it's small. I think it's enormous.
Really cool looking.
Well, when they built the Air Force Museum at Wright-Patterson, they rolled the B-70 into the building before it was completed.
Is that how they got it in there?
Yeah, that and the B-36.
You know, I just noticed it has hooks on it, so you put it in the like hanging one of those things that shelving. I think it's got the. Let's see if I can get that to go in there easily. I don't want to break anything. But these go in and then they push down, and helps if I put it in the right place. Good move, Slick. Look at that. It's got the hooks, so.
Trey says in the future I'm getting a remote shock collar for when you go off.
When I go off topic, yeah. Ray's going to be the attention police. Trey's going to be the.
Yeah, I don't remember the year this was first issued.
I could build this sitting here right now while we're talking.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's start the clock.
This particular one still has the original cellophane on it.
So yeah, this one's opened up and everything.
On the corner, and then glued across the bottom. This is the original cellophane on this guy.
Nah, this one. I got this one open box, so I have no guilt about building it. Oh, there's the big 4 parts right there. I think I'm going to set this aside. I may just go ahead and build this. I mean, the parts are all in here. It's not like, what is this, screws?
Greg Swan wants to know what happened. He ran out of VW vans.
Yeah, then we have...
Not exactly.
The Thunderbird.
Oh, nice.
This is a really nice looking kit, too.
It's a nice package.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's got Thunderbird logos all over it. What I find neat is the second issue from Lindberg on a lot of these jets didn't actually have the name of the jet on the box cover anymore. They would call it, European Fighter or Dragon's Fighter or something. In this case, where is it? Thunderbird. But nowhere does it say F-100 on here, which I find kind of strange. But even on the sides, nowhere does it say F-100. But man, isn't that gorgeous artwork?
It is.
Yeah.
Very. When I unboxed this, somebody emailed me and said, "Don't build it. That the kit was too valuable." And I don't know that's the case. That's probably one reason I haven't built it. Is because
I'm of the opinion if you want to build the thing. I mean that's what it was made to do. None of these kits. Some of them may be higher priced than others. They're a little harder to find or something. But it's not like this is the last Lindberg XB70 kit in existence. Right? That's not true. I do have a couple of kits by some absolutely obscure. There's that one of the Wright Flyer, or the 1909 Wright Flyer that had the tissue covering that went on the plastic thing. If you remember that kit that I reviewed, there's probably a handful of those in existence in the world, because they probably made just a few hundred of those kits. So something like that, yes, that's truly a rare thing. I'm not going to mess with that one. But all this other stuff, they made millions of these things. at least hundreds of thousands of some of them. They're meant to exist. I'm never going to build all these because I don't have the room for it or the time to build every single one of these. But I don't have a problem with cracking open some of these kits, that are still sealed, and enjoying the kit for what it is. This XB70, I haven't gotten around to it, but I'll eventually open it, because it needs to live.
Do you know if that kit's a tail sitter? Do I need to weight the nose?
What's that?
Do you know if the XB70 is a tail sitter? Do I need to weight the nose?
That I don't know.
Now, I'll sort of put it up to. I'm sitting here trying to make a little quick set dressing and putting them in upside down. Upside down, right side up. There we go. I think I used to fly the things. Now this T-28, I've already got one on the shelf, so there's no real reason to build that one. And I've got SBDs also, but here's one. And this one has the interior.
Yeah, it's got a clear side fuselage half.
I love the generic International Airlines.
Yeah.
Because we aren't paying copyrights.
Yep. Yeah, no more Air France.
Nice looking air, but I've already got a Caravelle on the shelf. Although, I have to admit that would look nice. But then I stopped thinking about painting all those freaking seats.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's like the Comet kit, the Hawk. Same thing.
I cheated on that one. I made a cargo plane out of it. Remember I did the little thing with the...
Yep.
I did the thing with the thing.
This
F-86?
one I find kind of interesting because this is a later issue of their F-86 that they produced, in the early 50s. And the actual swapped out the decals for West German aircraft. And still got all the all the rockets and stuff on there. But then there's this sticker that they added on. That's a Vietnam aircraft, right? Which I don't recall any F-86s flying in Vietnam.
But they flew in the Vietnam era.
F-86s.
Yeah.
I don't know who had F-86s in Vietnam, but the West Germans certainly were not in Vietnam.
It's just what they want you to think.
The motors that everyone talks about.
Now, what is that motor supposed to do? Just make a sound?
It says motorized for realistic jet engine sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
not sure how an electric motor gives you that, but okay.
Well, it's got a little blade thing, almost like a sawtooth blade on the front of the motor that I think rubs on a plastic part that makes the sound that they're calling a jet sound.
It's like the card in the tire of your bike when you were a kid.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like that.
Well,
this is also because the price extension got changed on this. They overprinted it to $1.29, and then at some point the kit didn't sell, and they did it for two for $1 to get this thing going.
Maybe because back then even kids knew F-86s weren't in Vietnam. The kind of kid who would buy that kit would probably know that.
Yeah, this is one that has the motor in the bag.
You got to put it together. I've like I said, I've only gotten one of those to work once for about 10 seconds, and that was a bucket list item for me.
Yeah, I never had any experience with trying to build one of their motors. I didn't have a whole lot of Lindberg kits because I was under the impression they were just all garbage. So I never actively bought Lindberg kits when I was younger. But I did receive their I think it was the Yorktown aircraft carrier kit that was motorized, and that motor was already built. So I don't know if that was common for them to issue them with completely built motors, or if it was more common to have the unbuilt ones.
Mm-hmm.
But the built motor that came with that Yorktown kit worked well, and
the only ones I ever saw were the built ones because of when I was building. And as a kid, I never got one to work And the first glue trooper that told me he got one to work, he admitted that his dad was an electrician, so that helped. But I did finally get one to work.
And this one the J35.
That Draken, yeah. That's about as in your face as an artworking kit.
Isn't that great? that's fantastic. And then they got this little pod on the bottom that would shoot the little rockets out of it.
Yeah, Gadkey's box art sort of said it snatched you by the collar and said, "Buy me, kid," or something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. but that's not enough. They still loaded up the wings with the extra rockets.
Because that's what you do. Because they're selling models, not making history. Okay, I know you got more.
That's the
Thunderbolt. I never understood that box art. It's not something that made me want. It's a Thunderbolt, but first off putting was a USAF on the wing, in the wrong place, and just everything about that is just so wrong.
Yeah, I actually like this box art. I think it looks very Art Deco.
Yeah, I'll give it that.
But I think
don't get me wrong. Yeah. If I wanted a Thunderbolt, it wouldn't slow me down from buying one. But this just beats it by leaps and bounds. There's not even a comparison. This makes you want to buy the model. And I think these are some of the best angles for aircraft, especially jets.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I got another good one here for you. This one's really coming out. The Fury.
Yeah, the Navy F-86. I love that big lip where the radar gun or ranging radar is supposed to be. It's Fury had a pretty short life on the carriers, and but it gave the Navy something that they needed.
And basically, this is just their F-86 kit done in blue plastic.
Well, they didn't make the Fury adjustments on it?
Nope.
Because the Fury was a different shape,
Well, there was a couple of different Furies, but the first Fury predates the F-86.
You know about the straight wing thing?
Yeah, and then they made this one, which is basically a clone of the F-86, and then they made the Dash 4 and Dash 5.
That's the one I'm thinking. They're the ones that went on the carriers.
Entirely new aircraft.
Because the early ones I don't think ever went on the boats. I've been told that early straight wing Fury that was Mustang wing.
Yeah, they started out with the plan was let's make a jet Mustang.
That's basically
Yeah, and so they ended up using the wings and kind of the tail, except there's a tailpipe underneath it.
Yeah, the base of the flying control surfaces. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the old Voodoo.
Voodoo. Now, is that the old, what is that, F-88 version? Or?
The F-88 Voodoo, yeah, the single-seaters.
Yeah. You see, you can already start to see some of the Phantom DNA in there.
Yeah.
I always thought the ugliest jet they ever put on the carrier was the Demon, and it was a Demon, too.
Yeah. And there's the one you're talking about, the PT-17.
That's actually a better kit than you would think. I was very happy with it.
Yeah, it is. It's a very good little kit.
And that was the first kit I ever rigged with wire. It looked fine until you got up close.
But you do get this, really bright yellow.
Which, when you're a kid who has no money for paint, you're like, yay, I get to build it, paint the tires black, the engine black, and I have a painted model that's in the right color. Hey, when you're 9 years old, that's a big deal.
It's kind of a translucent, I can see through this.
Yeah, I remember that about it. But when you glue the other half on there, it's not quite as bad.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad. And
paint the inside black and the problem goes away.
Yeah, and the wings are solid.
Mm-hmm. That kept life simple.
It's a good kit. They still stuck their really crappy little pilot figures in this guy.
And that's an airplane where you actually see the pilot figures. So, but hey, it's a business,
yeah,
kid.
But this thing dates back to 1946, I think, and they're still producing it.
I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah.
So they literally got a little bit worse as time went by.
Well, here's the F-86 version.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's fantastic artwork.
That's more Gadek's work, right? Or Gadke's?
Gadke.
Yeah. God, why I cannot say that name right.
Yeah, you can see it's the same kit, just molded in silver instead of blue. But
as I recall, the Lindberg kits, they were probably a little pricier than Aurora, but I think they were cheaper than Revell or Monogram.
Well, this one's got a price extension of 98 cents.
Yeah. I know people laugh at that today, but you know, a nickel or a dime or a quarter price difference in 1968, that was something.
Oh, yeah. That's their first aircraft was
the Olin the P-80, yep.
Yeah.
The very first one.
This is still in their lineup.
Why reinvent the wheel? I mean, it's a basic kit, but you're not going to win any prizes with it. But by God, if you want to just build a model and put it on display.
Especially these early issue ones, too, before they did go back and add some more surface stuff. But, I mean, that's pretty clean.
No, yeah, I think it's a decent kit. And the thing is you build that up, you paint it up nice, put it on a stick or whatever, put it on your shelf. It looks fine. Yeah. Well, yeah, the Monogram kit's got a few extra features, but not anything you're gonna.
Well, the thing I think that Lindberg definitely had over Aurora was that the Lindberg kits seemed to get the lines right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. It looks like a P-80. It looks like, you know, a Dragon. You know, whereas, you know, a lot of the Aurora stuff in the 50s and early 60s.
It just looked wrong, yeah.
There was a lot of questionable, you know, outlines on those kits.
I don't actually remember buying that many Aurora kits, except I bought their General Aviation series, their Jet Commander, their Cherokee, the Aztec, which always had the wrong windshield. It always came with a Cherokee windshield that didn't fit. So I had the world's biggest collection of windowless Aztecs. My brother had the Beech 18 and the Aero Commander. And I don't think any of us ever got their Cessna 310 or their Apache, but it was... And don't forget, people forget, Aurora had some Strombacher kits too. In fact, that's where they got their 310 and their a couple of them, I think. Actually, maybe we got all of them but the Cherokee and the Jet Commander. Oh gosh, I remember that kit.
This is a good little kit.
I think I built the Revell, the smaller Revell one. That's a 1/48 scale, right?
Yeah, this is a quarter scale one.
Yeah, I think I built the 1/72 scale Revell or Monogram.
You put this up against the Aurora kits. You know, the interwar Aurora kits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got a P-12, a P-26, F-4B, and I think a Helldiver.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just as good, if not better, than those. But, you know, everyone, oh yeah, that was the Aurora kit was so awesome. Oh, well.
I think a lot of the nostalgia for Aurora kits is simply because people had them when they were young. I mean, they were cheaper. Parents were looking to save a little money, and they, like I say, they made everything. But the real love affair with Aurora kits, I have no doubt, began largely with some of the off-brand weird stuff they made.
This was kind of a neat series that they produced as well. This was their airliner series.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with the little window box.
Yep.
You know, and the instructions are printed right on the box there. So it's your 707. They'll get there's their Comet.
Mm-hmm.
And TU-104.
That I had the TU-104. I remember getting it, but it had a different box art. I think it had it flying over the Kremlin or something with a red sky or night sky. And I think I got their Badger, and The other one that I never found, I didn't like, but now I would grab it in a heartbeat, was what they called their Russian nuclear-powered bomber, which was just the Maya Sheshev or something. I'd love to get my hands on one of those. Saw one on eBay built. I thought it was cheap. Thought about buying it and repainting it, but I was like, too many irons in the fire.
Yeah, those molds I think ended up in Mexico.
So Eric, how many kits do you have in your stash?
I think I was somewhere around 500.
I want to respond to something. Roy, I got your video and pictures of the PT-17. Roy built the motorized PT-17 to be in the next viewer's building. Actually sent a little video of the prop working on it and everything. They did a real nice job on it. It's a good kit.
So 500 kits. And
yeah, somewhere around there.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
I'd say about 5-6 years ago is when I started getting into the vintage stuff again.
Okay.
I had probably about 50 to 100 kits. When I kind of got out of modeling for quite a while, married, having kids and all that, and as the kids got older, then COVID, got me back into modeling, like I think a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got into an appreciation of the old kits. I remember seeing them. Like I said, in the '70s, you go into the model swap meets and seeing the kits and always shying away from them because I wanted the latest Tamiya kit or Hasegawa or something like that. But what I was always attracted to mainly was the box art.
Yeah, me too.
And
yeah.
The box art from these kits is just beautiful. I mean,
it's the magic that reels you in.
Yeah, and yeah, Hasegawa had some nice box art. Tamiya had some nice box art, but it was just like this hyper realistic photo. It was just basically a colored photo.
Now a lot of it's digital.
Yeah, and now especially it's all digital. But the artistic license, that you get from Gadkey and
I was always Team Linwood.
Linwood. I mean, Linwood box art, that B-17 Memphis Bell box art. I mean, if you don't feel something when you look at that, you don't have a pulse.
With me, it was the one that just totally captivated me was the 1/32 scale Spitfire Mark I with that other Spitfire peeling off behind him and everything.
Yeah, and, all those kits, were just gorgeous.
Well, remember what Mike Machat said? It tells a story.
Yeah,
my brother used to say that as a kid, going to look at the models.
My dad had built a lot of these, as well, and so I always heard the stories of, I had that one. He would look at it sometimes and stuff. But in the 70s and 80s, I was trying to build as good a model as I could. I'd go to the IPMS shows and I'd enter kits in the junior category, and I'd quite frequently win the trophy for the category because I was the only one there. So I had a whole shelf full of trophies, but I mean, even in the late 70s, early 80s, like I was the only kid, bringing models.
Well, that was because things were starting to wind down for youth model building.
Atari came out, so there weren't a lot of guys building models, but I was more focused on, what's the latest, whatever, and trying to get hyper detail as much as I could at, 12. Learning how to use airbrushes and buying, aftermarket decals and all that stuff. So I wasn't really buying any of this stuff. I did have an Aurora F9F Panther that I won as a door prize at one of those shows. And I still have that kit untouched because I thought it was a garbage kit back in 1978. I'm like, what the hell's all this raised markings for? I'm not building this thing. Well, I'm glad I never did because now it's one of my favorite kits in the collection.
Look at it this way. When you went into the store, the hobby store, as a young child, and you had your, $1.25 that you saved up over a couple of weeks' allowance.
Yeah.
It was like going to the Miss America contest. Okay, and you looked at this box art, and the prettiest one won. You know.
Well, my brother used to say, "Why going through all the models is like going to the movies because all the box art told a story." Steve,
and of course, scale mates didn't exist back then.
Of course not.
And so I got stung quite a few times where I'd get this kit with this, gorgeous box art, and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great kit. And I'd get it home, and it would have raised markings.
Yeah,
and,
it was. They never lived up. I got them in trouble.
I found out that it was the 1957 kit, even though it's packaged as if it was a brand new 1983 kit, and I felt cheated.
Yep.
Sucked in by the artwork.
Steve John Fastport says to let the guys at Atlantis know that
I
saw that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
well, it's interesting. A lot of the repops, some of them stayed with the original box art, and some of them changed the box art to be more contemporary.
I noticed that. What's the reason behind it? There's actually even some of the kits that have got both. One time they'll issue it with the original, and another time they've got some new box art on it.
Yeah, I can't get my head around it. I mean, I would keep the same old box art because it worked. But it seems that some of these companies feel that, they're trying to reintroduce it to a new market that, this is the first time they've seen the kit. So they're going to try to make it a more contemporary package, I think is the rationale.
Well, Frank Field nailed it. He says the best thing about the kit was the artwork. When the best thing about the kit is the artwork, the worst part about going to and I remember when it happened, when they went to the white boxes with the photograph of the finished model, it just lost all of its pizzazz.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody in the industry liked that when they did that.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if it's true they say they had to do that, for truth in advertising, or if that was a cop-out.
No, they did it because it was cheap and easy.
That's what I thought. And they paid for it, and and they picked the wrong time to do that crap. And the worst part is that you didn't even really need to update a lot of the artwork. All the Linwood stuff held up great. Still does.
And if you go to Ollie's and you look at some of the monogram kits that they have there now, they stayed with that box art.
Yeah.
Whereas the white box was just a picture of the kit.
The one of the things I noticed, one thing Aurora had going for it was they did have some interesting box art. A lot of their armor box art was always done in those darker tones, very earthy tones, almost like a sepia look to it. And it worked very well. The Atlantis in 109 Howitzer. I bought one over at Ollie's. Ironically, I bought a couple of them, but and I built it. And it's a day build. Such an easy kit. Hardest part is just putting all the wheels on it and getting the tracks to hold. But I looked at it and I was like, and they give you both, 2 barrels, long barrel and the short barrel version. Yeah. And I'm like, the artwork is the original artwork from Aurora, and it's got that. I'm not exactly sure how to describe the tone, sort of a dark, almost documentary feel to it in a way, I guess. But it was great. It made me want to buy the kit. Whoever's
I do think that Aurora did have some of the more violent box art.
They got in trouble for it.
Like that Fokker D7 where the guy's like burning alive, and the plane going
How
down.
many times have I talked about this very kit?
Yeah, I mean that's.
I am burning alive. I mean, 8-year-olds are buying this stuff.
Yeah.
The guy's literally screaming on fire, burning alive.
I didn't realize, until we were talking about the kit before the show. I have the original Brooklyn 8 issue of the Aurora. What became known as the MiG-19, when originally it was issued as the MiG or as a Yak-25.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the
in reality, it's
going down in flames, being shot down by the prototype Panther jet,
which they also made,
which was part of their lineup as well.
Clever marketing.
You look at that guy there. He's got holes in his canopy, and he's all in agony. He's all he's going down in flames too. He's not burning, but he's got a.
Hey, what can I tell you, man? You know, Abe Shikes he didn't like commies.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Abe Shikes was a tough, as Steve described him, he was a tough little Russian New York Jewish businessman, and clearly he didn't care. He didn't like commies, and he didn't care much for Germans.
He didn't like Germans, that's for sure.
But this artwork, which was used on 2 different scales, by the way, it was one of my 10. I did years ago. I did a video of my 10 favorite box arts. My brother had this one on the wall. And this was always one of my favorite box art. And this is the one, I think it was, no, it's Air Commander was done at Zahn's. Although it looks like it might have been also done at Zahn's Airport where Mike used to work. But there's a romance of travel in these. You know what I mean? It's like a travel poster. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is a great selling point. It really adds some romance. The only thing I wish they'd done is just move it back a little bit so you can see the tip of the nose. I kind of didn't like it was trimmed off. But
so some of the framing that they did where like you're looking from underneath another airplane.
Yep.
It's some really interesting choices. Like they did the same thing with what was it, the Aero Commander?
Yes, they did.
You're like looking from underneath.
What it is you're looking between the nose where you see that Rockwell air conditioner intake. They use the Rockwell logo, and a landing gear looking under the airplane at one fueling and another one taking off in the background. That was done at Zahn's. Mike and I have picked that artwork apart because he worked there as a kid.
Yeah, and what company's going to do box art like that nowadays?
Really? Now,
no.
Explain the story in detail. Hold up the box and explain the story in detail about the Yak/MiG from Aurora and the Brooklyn 8.
Okay, so this particular boxing is what's today called part of the Brooklyn 8. And when Aurora started, the first couple of kits were basically rip-offs from Comet. You know, they ripped off the Comet Panther and the Comet. I'm sorry, not Comet. Was it Hawk? No, Hawk. I'm sorry, Hawk. They ripped off the Hawk Panther and the Hawk F-90 Interceptor. So those were their first 2 kits, and then they produced, the next couple of them, the Spitfire, the ME-109, the P-38, the F-86, and this one. And those were made when Aurora was still in Brooklyn. And so when they moved to
West Hempstead.
Yeah, North Hempstead.
West Hempstead.
The logo changed, and of course that address changed on everything. So before they made the move, those first 8 kits are known as the Brooklyn 8, and they had kind of a unique boxing to them. So the famous fighters start showing up, but it's not on a logo itself. It's just written across the top. You get the blue band down the side with the insignia for different countries. And then on the side, you've got the first Aurora logo with the Aurora sunburst, but it's not inside of an oval, and it's got the Brooklyn address on it. And so the first issuing of this kit was as the Yak-25, and there's one story that I've seen on it is that they changed it to the MiG-19 because Revell brought out a Yak-25, which actually looked like a Yak-25. Whereas this flashlight, nothing like a Yak-25. It doesn't look like a MiG-19 either, but
it's actually looks like some experimental thing. I think it did as a one-off.
Yeah,
I looked it up. I used to know what it was, but of course I don't anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of an amalgamation of a couple of different things. I have some aviation periodicals from the time period from the early 50s that show the next Russian aircraft and stuff, and some of this information is pieced together from just written descriptions from spies. And these would become artist renditions of what they're thinking this guy's describing. Some of them were, just this grainy picture taken through a fence, kind of thing. And so that's what this, aircraft or this kit is originating from some of those drawings from those early 50s aviation trade magazines. And then it kind of took on its own life. Lindberg actually did a variation of this as well. That, again, nobody talks about. Everyone talks about this guy, as the mythic Big 19. But Lindberg did almost an identical kit with themselves, and nobody mentions about them. So this basic design kind of looks like.
Guys, I think the picture's frozen.
What's that?
Mine's okay, but I'm starting to see, guys putting pictures up that they say that the screens are frozen.
Huh, mine's frozen.
Mine's okay.
Now you're watching on YouTube or on Zoom? Or
Zoom.
No, Zoom's fine. It's YouTube that's frozen.
Oh,
Yeah, it looks like YouTube's frozen.
Yeah.
Looks like we're all frozen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could.
Can they hear us?
Can you guys hear us okay? OBS. Hold on, I'm going to try something, guys, and we may all get disconnected, so here we go, and let me just put some pictures up here while I do this so to keep the channel open.
Nobody's saying they can hear us or can't hear us.
Okay.
We can hear you okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
like
we're now a radio show. Hold on, I'm going to try something. I've got a still picture up here. I don't know if it'll... Let's see. Window capture off. Window capture on. Nope, still frozen. Okay, let me try. Let tell you what. Hang on, guys. Danger, Will Robinson. Okay, stay. Okay. I've got a possibility that this might work. Okay, that was...
DM, the other aircraft that sometimes gets attributed to this is that TA-183, but it's a different aircraft from that.
Well, from people who worked at Aurora that I knew, they would always say that Abe Shikes or Jim Marino would come down to the R&D department with an article from a newspaper, a rendering from some flyer or something, and say, here, make this, we want to make this model, and we want it done like in 3 days.
Yeah.
As opposed to Lou Glazer, who would get the blueprints and send people to take pictures and measurements, before they'd make the kit. And that's why a lot of the kits were a little off on the on the Aurora end.
Yeah, one of my other Aurora favorites is their F-105. I think it's got some great box art, and it's molded in the silver. It's a good looking kit, but it is so far off, and the closest that it kind of maybe looks like is one of the prototypes, but it's still not a very accurate rendition of it.
I remember when Goldfinger came out and Airfix had the rights to do the DB5, and Aurora, not to be caught late to the party, they cobbled together a DB5 and called it the Spy Car. And all the dimensions were off. It was but they got a kit out, and that's, to them, that's all that mattered. I mean...
Okay, I think we have picture again.
Not on YouTube.
There's a lag. It's
There's a delay? Okay.
Give it 20 seconds or so.
You know, we had last week we had Gavin on, and he had showed his model of the Jaguar XKE that was the Aurora kit.
Yeah.
Well, it was an okay kit, but the dimensions of the car
And we're
were
back.
way off.
Yeah.
You know, the front of it looked like it was like cut off and bent, and you know, and that's just the way the kit was made. It wasn't, you know, any problem with the build. It's just that's how some of their kits were.
Did Aurora actually cut the mold for that one, or did they
Yeah.
get that from somebody else?
No, they did that one
Because
themselves.
I've got some of their Indy winners,
Mhm.
and those came from another company.
Okay, we're
they
back,
didn't
guys.
actually cut-
Okay, we're good.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that little commercial break. And now a word from our sponsor. Rebel Models!
That's the other problem is that there's so much mold swapping that went on in the old days that you're really not sure who made what.
Yeah. Well, and then you throw in, not just the mold swapping, but the mold stealing. Aurora's first two kits.
They stole from Hawk.
I mean, those were flat out stolen kits, and
It still had that. I said Hawk on them.
yeah, Hawk, I mean, clearly Hawk didn't like that because they started sticking Hawk's name all over their kits, and supposedly it's in Morse code.
It's in Morse code, yeah. Mhm.
You know,
Did that,
when
yeah.
you look at Japan. Japan was copying American kits all over the place. In the late 50s, early 60s, and the ironic part of it is that then some of those molds got passed around so many times, and some of them ended up with like MTEX.
Mm-hmm.
So MTEX is releasing some Marsan ripoff of an Aurora kit. And I'm sure Aurora probably didn't care much when Marsan was just distributing it in Japan. They were guilty of ripping off themselves. So they're not going to complain about kit that they're not even in that market. But then when that mold goes through hands and ends up MTEC selling it side by side against the original kit here in the States, that's I'm sure creating somebody's hair to stand up on those.
That's like that large scale 300 SL that was originally a Remwall kit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's gone around the pike. I mean, 5 different people sold that same kit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. Even though the Aurora kits, are some of the least accurate kits from that era, they seem to be some of the ones that were copied quite a bit.
Well, I actually think there's a reason for that. Think about it. The simplistic nature of the Aurora kits makes them the easiest to copy.
You know what? That's probably true. As I know, was it Merit in the UK?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Some of their bike. I mean, they made some on their own, but some of those kits are taken straight from Aurora, and then those kits ended up getting bought up by I think Artiplast in Italy.
Yep.
Artiplast.
When they went belly up, and those ended up going somewhere else, and so again you get these copies of copies, still actually on the market.
Those Merit kits were nice kits. I have a friend of mine who's sort of client, and he was a race car driver in Europe, and he lived in Europe, and he had a whole collection of the Merit sports cars and a couple of the old F1 cars. And he had about a dozen of them, and he came to me one day and he said, "Can you redo these for me?" And I was like, "Sure." And I redid them, but they were really nice kits.
Yeah, Merit actually had I'll tell you, had a crappy reputation. Sharp out of Japan. And some of the stuff they sold you could barely call models. But when I was researching a lot of the smaller Japanese companies, which Japanese have kit model companies, like kick a tree and 3 of them fall down. I mean, they have a thing for making models. It's just, I cannot believe how many companies got into business. Obscure companies. I've got ODK.
Aren't they all like under the shade of one actual tree? Like all the
I don't know.
All the buildings that they exist in.
Not only that, but you know that a lot of the major manufacturers come out of Shizuoka. That one prefect has got Tamiya, Hasegawa, Aoshima. And I'm like, I don't know what they're putting in the water there, but I sure as heck don't.
You better hope that Godzilla doesn't come ashore.
I was just thinking, I hope Godzilla attacked that place. There's not going to be models left.
The model kit industry in Japan is done for.
Yeah. And, and Zuikimura.
Who had hour 39.
By the way, you guys are familiar with Zuikimura, okay? Zuikimura, the Japanese company. Now, I bought one of their kits at the Nationals. I bought their Shinden. And I just so backed up with stuff to do. It's the first time, excuse me, I outsourced a build. So we have a master modeler here, Brett Markley. And he never built one. And neither have I. I said, look, I'll tell you what, you build this, and I'll just do a video on it when you're done. Tell me what, give me reports. He's been sending me photographs. They are insanely detailed, wonderful kits. He's really thrilled with it. It's taking him a long time to do it because he has a life and other things going on. He builds when he can. But he sent me some photos recently. They have a large endo structure. They have a full engine and everything on it. And I found out Zuikimura, it's not somebody's name. Like Tamiya or Hasegawa. Mm-hmm. Apparently it's Japanese and it means something like Village of Sculptors. And it's from the whole thing comes from an art community. And I was like, that explains the very different approach, the artisan approach. They're not shy about charging $50 for a 148 scale model or $100 for one of their bigger ones. But Steve and I saw them up close and personal at the Nats. They are impressive.
Well, those are the guys who had the Hortons, right?
Yes, they had all the Hortons.
Yeah,
including
those things were unbelievable.
And I don't know what master modeler they've got building them, but it's about as close to flawless as I've seen.
Well, if you want to see some phenomenal, mastercraft level work, my dad, is very much into solid wood kits.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot, occasionally when you see some of those on my channel, they're coming out of his collection.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he broke his teeth on was solid woods, and there's solid wood is still being built in other parts of the world. It's still fairly popular, and one of the areas, of course, is Japan. And they've got a couple of websites, where they showcase, their builds on this stuff, and the level of detail that these guys are getting on these solid wood kits. Some of the photographs, you'd swear it's of the original plane.
Well,
it's so well done.
One of our viewers, Fran Fierco, who rebuilt the Felix stove that was destroyed in my shelf collapse. Fran does a lot of solid block kits. And the nice thing he's pointed out is that he's got a nice collection of unbuilt originals going back to the 40s and World War II. And he points out that one of the nice things about these wooden kits is you can use the kit as a template. You can build as many of them as you want.
Oh, yeah.
And he's done some stuff. He did a P40 and some other stuff that, and he's a big armor builder also.
Yeah.
But he's made some airplanes and stuff that I was like, if I didn't know better, I'd think it was a styrene kit.
Yeah. There's some of these builders are phenomenal, and then you kind of going on the other side of the world, in Eastern Europe, they still do a lot of paper models there.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those things, same thing as well. Some of those are built so nicely that you'd swear it's a plastic kit.
Well, as I was telling during our pre-show, I knew a Romanian MiG pilot who was a passionate solid block wood model builder. And he showed me the photos of him and all his guys at a model show in Romania. And a lot of them, they did have some plastic kits, but a lot of them were carved out of wood. Magnificent looking models and true artisans. And, it helps when you can go out the actual airplane to get the details, but still.
Hobby stores there are weird too.
Yeah. Now, Eric, have you ever been to a foreign hobby shop?
Yes. I was just at one in January. I was in Arnhem in Holland, Netherlands, and they have a pretty large hobby shop right there in the downtown, and a lot of die cast.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, a lot of trains.
Yep.
They're, the plastic model kit section of aircraft and armor and stuff was fairly decent. But there was a lot
comparison.
of kind of wackier kind of, like a kit of like a factory.
Mm-hmm.
A kit of a windmill. I guess it's Holland, so.
Well, I got the Atlantis Lighthouse right here, so I can't really knock the windmill.
Yeah, so but this particular shop was pretty well stocked with a whole variety of stuff.
And they're bigger than the hobby stores here.
Compared to what's left, yeah, I'd say so. Brookhurst Hobbies, the world famous Brookhurst Hobbies, is still here. And I'd say that one, Brookhurst, is still bigger than what this one in Arnhem was. But it was a well stocked place. The guy running the place wasn't the friendliest guy in the world. Because here I was, in Arnhem. If you're not familiar, Arnhem is where the bridge at the end of a bridge too far. Where they're fighting for crossing the Rhine. So I wanted to get something related to Arnhem, to the British paratroopers, something, and they didn't have one single kit tied to that at all. I'm like, this is the town where the battle happened. You gotta have something. Nope.
That's like going to New York and not being able to find a model of the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
I went to a hobby store in Cologne. I was in Cologne for a trade show. And so I got there, a couple of days early, and I said, let me find a hobby shop. And I went out of the hotel, and I saw a police officer there, and I asked him if he spoke English, which he did. And I said, excuse me, could you direct me to a hobby store? And he said, oh, yes. And he said, you go down the street here, you make a left, and on the corner there's a red storefront, and that's the hobby store. Well, I follow his directions, go into the store. It's a porn shop. And the hobby store is in the back. You have to walk through the porn shop to get to the hobby store. And I'm saying...
Okay, hold on. Where was the address of this place?
Yeah. And I'm saying to myself, I guess kids don't build a lot of models here.
Or they do. It is Europe, after all. Chris, I just looked at your Stuka. It looks great, man. I'll download that and do the viewer's build.
I recall going to a hobby shop in France as well when I was there, and I want to say 2000. No, it would have been earlier than that. Probably around like 98, 99, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
It was, my recollection of it was it being pretty small. Mm-hmm. And same thing again, a lot of die cast cars. There wasn't back then. There wasn't very much die cast aircraft. But there was a lot of die cast cars.
It sounds like coal pars. They're in Denver. They import die cast, so they have like walls. They have a ton of plastic models. Yeah. They have walls covered with every kind of just about every airline ever made in die cast.
Yeah,
I remember going to hobby stores in England, and they looked like they were flea markets with a front door.
I love that.
The stuff was just everywhere, and it was no random order. It was just...
It's just like when you're at Lou's place, JD Hobbies.
Yeah,
it's looking around trying to find the stuff. As I told Mike Machette, you're mining for memories.
I can only handle Lou's place for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just sensory overload.
It's exactly what I say, sensory overload.
And the other thing I'm worried about is I'm going to touch something and like 50 kids are going to fall.
Well, it would be an honorable death.
I'm going to break this stuff, and I'm going to have to shell out $500 for stuff I broke.
I met Max and Mike there in August. I was out visiting my son. And they said, come up and we'll go to the store. I was like, okay. So I drove up and I got there. They got a little delayed. I was there about 45 minutes before they were. I spent 45 minutes walking around the store and I had a headache. Yeah. Because I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
Your brain is trying to remember everything you saw. And you're like, you don't have a slide. It's like you remember 3 kits at a time as they slide through your mind.
Oh, God. And then some of the aisles are dead ends, too.
Yes.
Yes. It's a labyrinth trying to figure out, wait, where did I turn left?
And then you get in the back and you're like, all the big models from the old travel agencies, you're like, I want that big B-58 Hustler that's 5 feet long.
And then there's the upstairs.
Then there's the upstairs, all the records and uniforms.
He came out and he said, let me take you on a tour. And he took me upstairs and he was showing me. And I was like, my eyes were like blinking. Like, I was like having this.
I'm with Mike Machette and he's looking through the artwork and he finds one of his artworks there.
and there is absolutely no rhyme or reason to how anything is laid out.
That's the beauty of it.
No.
Yeah, and so it's...
And you totally, because it's all caged off, you totally fail to realize he's got like 5 3D printing machines back there doing stuff.
In the front.
Which, and you're like...
He had a guy there who builds kits that they build for customers and then they mail them to him. So he was building the Poker Porsche 917. And I see him doing it, and I'm talking to the guy. He goes, "This is just impossible. This is it." And I was like, "You want me to help you?" And he goes, "No, I'm afraid if we break it, then you'd have to pay for it." I was like, "I'm out." But I mean, they had 6 or 8 3D printing machines where this guy was, and they had tables, and they were building kits, for customers, and then they mail them to them.
You got to wheel and deal with Lou because, I mean, unfortunately, being in San Pedro, he's got to charge California prices, which, but the thing I like about Lou is you can work with him usually. You get to know him. And God bless Natalie. She keeps that place going too. The 2 of them.
Yeah.
And you meet a lot of cool people there. They got like every time, and like you think it's a counter. And you're not supposed to go behind you. Look behind you. There's a ton of merchandise back there.
Oh, yeah.
There's just more stuff. And that's where you find like all the cool guys. And Steve keep going, hey, look, I found this cool Godzilla thing. And like, how am I supposed to get that home?
Here's a hot tip for people who do live in Southern California or ever get there. He's still got a whole, I think, 2 racks full of Model Master paint.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, that's
if they would let me take that on the plane,
Right.
Yeah.
He had 3 S kits that we had the Fokker, the Red Baron one, and he had the 2 other ones that were of that era, like late 50s.
Yeah.
And he had them all rubber banded together, and it was like, it was for sale as a group. And I was like, I haven't seen these kits in 50 years. I was like, oh my God.
I tell you what, Lou's place that's one of those rare gems, and I'm sure there are a few other places like it.
Yeah.
I feel very, very fortunate to live 2 miles from a real hobby shop.
Yeah.
And Ian does a great job. And Ian does actually have some vintage stuff because he buys estate sales and stuff. So he has this little flow going through. But he's got RCs and everything. But Lou's place is like, you're blowing the dust off of some of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And the 300 models hanging from the ceiling,
too.
And
I've almost every time I've been there, I've bought something, but not one time have I bought a model kit.
Yeah.
I got, a couple of times I've gotten World War II recognition models.
Mm-hmm.
That he's had, a couple of those in the store, and another time I got World War II era model tank that was made out of rubber, made by Auburn Rubber.
Oh, Fran, you hear that?
It was beautiful, beautiful condition, right? It was sitting upstairs on one of the tables in the back corner, and it still had the original rubber wheels on it. There's no cracks in the rubber on the top, and it still had the original paint on it. And he gave it to me for a nice little price, and took that home. Have yet to bring a model kit home from this.
Well, it's got so much other cool stuff.
Yeah, and, I got a sea bag full of Vietnam era uniforms and boots and stuff. One time.
He had more Matchbox kits than I've seen since 1975.
Now, one of the great things about going there also is that a lot of the people that come in they're like us. They appreciate the old kits. They know you can have this very conversation with them. And half the people are just hanging out in there talking about this kind of stuff. And it's every town used to have one, and that's probably the only one on the West Coast now. But I'm sure there are some other places.
Yeah, we used to have one here called Military Hobbies that was fairly close to me. And it's one I could get to on my bike pretty easily. So I went there a lot of times. The guy who ran that is an old Japanese guy named Al. And he had retired and had made the investment into this hobby shop. And it was all military hobbies. There wasn't a bunch of cars or anything. Mm-hmm. It was just military planes, boats, and tanks, and pretty good reference material selection, some cases of built models that were pretty fantastic. But the thing that really stood out to me is the entire ceiling was recognition models hanging from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. And so that started my fascination with those. Some of the ones he had were some of the wood ones, but they're all in fantastic condition. And so Al finally retired. And sold it to another gentleman who ended up having to move the shop to another location that was maybe a third of the size.
Yeah.
And that was the death knell of it, because the military hobbies had been in this one location for 40 years. Yeah. And moving it just killed it. Yeah. And so I think the guy took it online. I think he's selling through some website portal or something. But it was just a shell of the store that it used to be, which is really unfortunate. And that's true with a few of the other major, hobby shops that are around here. Brookhurst Hobbies is actually larger than it was when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But in talking with their staff, the majority of their sales is actually through the internet. They have a very well-stocked store, but what keeps the storefront open isn't the model kits anymore. It's the gaming stuff.
Yep, we have a big gaming.
A big chunk of the store is the gaming figures and the chips and the boards and all that kind of stuff.
When I go to this is my mailing address, and when I go here, right above the post office is one of these gaming stores. And a lot of it's just tables because all the kids come in and buy the stuff and they do all the game and everything. And I'm like, at least some vestige of the industry staying alive, But very, I bought a few things there, but very little because they don't have military strictly gaming stuff. The colors are just never quite right. But at least I'm glad to see kids creating stuff.
Yeah.
Eric, did you ever go to the Gundam store in San Diego?
No.
It's on Balboa, right off 163. It's in a Japanese shopping center. And we did a video on it because I videoed it when I was there. I've never seen so much Gundam in my entire life.
That stuff is huge.
It's the single...
We talk a lot about how kids aren't building models anymore.
They're building Gundam.
Boatload of Gundam.
35 million Gundams were sold at the time I did my video on Bandai and Gundam.
Yeah.
And it is 60% of the modeling world, period.
and that stuff ain't cheap either.
No,
Nope.
not at all.
You know, I mean, it's not like these are, you know, some $5 kits that they're selling a ton of.
But it's the same thing we just talked about. These kids are into this because they grew up with Transformers and all this stuff. It is their thing, just like ours is the military stuff we grew up with. And their kids or grandkids will be doing, I don't know, building models of cell phones. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, so it is neat to see that they're, you know, actually constructing stuff. And the other thing that is in a way kind of part of our hobby, I guess, is Lego. Even though, I mean, it's still building something with your own hands.
Yeah, it's not a plastic model, but
It's not a plastic model kit, but
it's the world's most complex snap tight.
You know, I mean, these kits are phenomenally detailed now that they produce. I mean, the instruction booklets are, you know, 40 pages.
Hold it in front of you, Steve. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Hold on.
That's the Gundam in Yokohama at the factory Gundam where they have this like 80-foot actual Gundam that walks.
No way.
Yeah, it's all over YouTube. There's videos of it. So I saw the kit and I said, yeah, this is very cool. I have to get this.
So, this is the only one I have here in the house because the rest of them are in Eduardo's collection.
Aren't most Gundams snap tight?
Yeah.
They all are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you do have to use a little glue, but generally
Sometimes you gotta screw them too.
And do they come molded in different colors?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah, now,
too, so you don't have to,
you
don't
can
have to
tell
do much painting if you
I
don't want to.
detailed this one, okay?
Yeah.
So it's got battle damage and scuff marks and everything, but everything is molded in its basic color.
Okay.
What they usually do is they usually weather them.
And my kid Eduardo said it best though, because he did take an interest in this, although I really built them for him. But they're all on display at his place, including the big one that was given to me by Ricky. And man, that thing was I was shocked at the engineering and complexity of that kit. All the springs and the knees and everything. But we got it all done. The wings are so heavy, so we wound up putting it on the shelf, and Eduardo's made a shelf just for it. We wound up having to run a wire around it and secure it because it was so heavy. It tumbled off, and but Eduardo was so excited to see that. They get as excited about that stuff as we get excited about kit models, and it's a generational thing, I guess. But so what do you guys think of my new blue cabinet that my wife got for me? I just sit here in this room sometimes and enjoy the ambiance.
Can you change the color of the?
Yes. Yeah.
You get like an app or something that you can.
I like the blue, but we have the regular white.
Yeah.
And it's also got a motion activator, which I tend not to use, but I have to figure out how. But there's a way to adjust you can adjust the sensitivity a little bit. But I favor the blue. I'll just sit here sometimes and just kind of zone out and I've been out of whiskey for like a month. I hadn't gotten to the liquor store, but next time I feel like having a couple, I'll just sit here and enjoy it.
You know what you need, Max, is you need to get old store shelving. And put that on your wall so you can stack the vintage kits on it, so it can look like an old hobby shop.
That's what I got these all here. These are all the old vintage kits that. And I had them behind me, but the wall is so far back that it just became a little colored blob. What I need is to get something where I can stack them all like that, where you can actually see. But if it's much more, but the problem you run into in that, if you have much more than a couple of feet behind you, it gets to where you can't see what it is, So
Well, plus it takes up a lot more real estate when you got them facing out like that.
And now what I could do, I won't do. What I could do is get the store hobby thing and then just graft it in behind me like Steve's using a pseudo background. But I like it as natural.
Yep.
And so, where did Steve run off on us? Wow, we shot past our time, which isn't a big deal. Let's see. Yeah, a fairly good turnout night. About 99 folks were here. Still got 96. So, Eric, before we say our man, the time kind of shot by, didn't it?
Yeah.
And you and I talked for a good hour earlier today. And when you're talking about this stuff, we all have similar interests, so it just, it comes naturally.
And our tangents were somewhat limited tonight, too.
Yeah, well, that's because I suspect that Trey may already have the shot collar working.
Well, I appreciate you having me on tonight. Kind of, filler for you for the week instead of being on the boat. But
hey, I was going to have you next week, so it's I also want to have there are a couple other people that have just talked in interest, and Steve and I have swung for the fences. We're trying to see if we can get Jay Leno on one, because that's going to happen. You never know. He's a regular Joe. He might enjoy doing, coming down to the backwaters of the internet just for kicks and giggles.
Yeah.
But this, as you know, it's really just a gab session. It's a bunch of people with a similar interest getting together. Everybody gets half the comments going on have gotten 3/4 of the comments have nothing to do with what we're talking about, but people are having a good time. That's all it is. It's like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. But
it's the same thing as what this channel is for me. Is just having fun with it. Sharing my collection, trying to preserve some history. It's a big learning experience for me because there's a ton of people out there who've got knowledge that you can't find anywhere. And so through the channel, I'm learning stuff. When we were trying to figure out something, and Paul Adams in New Zealand of all places,
Paul has become a national treasure on this, and Paul.
And so this community that is existing with through your channel, through some of the stuff from my channel, it's preserving this history. It's I think reliving a lot of nostalgia. A lot of the videos, the comment section is, I remember when Aunt Sally brought me that kit from the TGNY and how fun it was to build it.
TGNY.
Stuff like that. I mean, that to me, that's what this is about.
And it's all in good fun.
It's not about how much a model kit is worth today. It's the nostalgia of it, the history of it, the fun, the enjoying the artwork on the boxes, something just as simple as that. Just really, getting into that stuff.
Yep.
I'm just looking right now at this Aurora box. I just realized that the box art wraps around the side, and there's a river down here that I didn't know. It's like, wow, that's great.
Some of them, I remember some kids were doing.
Maybe his fire is going to get put out. He's going to crash in the river.
It's I think also as we mature, let's use the word as we mature.
It's the wrong channel for this.
As we get older. Not to put too fine a point on it, but as a lot of us realize we have more yesterdays than tomorrows, you tend to really appreciate these things that much more, because think about when you're young, you got so excited. I mean, I still get excited about it. I mean, everybody gets excited about something at some point, but when you were young, the things that used to get you excited, the last day of school, the Christmas Eve, going and just hop on your bike and run down to see the new models that came to the hobby shop or the Five and Dime. I mean, it was all every little thing was an adventure. And like I say, you can't live in the past, but you can visit.
Yeah. The other thing I really love seeing too is that almost everybody, when they're responding, some sort of connection with one of these kits, seems to be in a connection in a lot of cases with their father or their grandfather or an uncle, occasionally an aunt or a mom, but the positive feelings that people are experiencing, getting reminded of that first build. Rarely was anybody doing a first build by themselves. That first build was being done with somebody somebody important in their life.
Would have came out better if I did it by myself.
Hey, you're talking to a guy who's when he's 5 or 6 years old built his first model, which is a little bag Spitfire, a little blue, and I think it might have been the Airfix BTK Spitfire. I didn't know how water dust slide decals work, so my grandma and I cut out the decals and taped them on.
I have my first build, not the actual first build, but I went and searched it on eBay for years and finally found it. And I built it and I put it in a window box with the original box. And it has a sign and it says, "And this is how it all started."
Was that the Jeep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeep and trailer.
Revell 140 Jeep and trailer. Well, guys, I'll let you say your goodnights, and then I'll let everybody go. We can stay on the Zoom session for a minute.
Eric, it was a pleasure having you on. I'm sure as everyone else who sees your channel, really enjoys your content and thanks you for what you do. So, Glue Troopers, I'm sure this was very informative to you. I know it was very informative to me. Good night, guys, and we'll see you next week. And Eric, we'll keep watching your channel. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Max, for having me on the channel. Thanks, Steve, for all of your insight. I enjoy listening to you just as much on the weekly live streams. With a lot of the insight that you bring from the industry and your knowledge of cars as well. Is much appreciated. So special thanks for that.
We'd like that. When can you come back?
Yeah, well, I don't have a whole lot of other life other than building models. Right?
Then you're at the right place.
My kids are all grown and gone, and
welcome home.
Do your kids build models?
My youngest was starting to. In fact, she went to a couple of the kit shows with me, and she picked out a French Char B and an FT Matchbox kit to build. And then she saw a table that had paint, and so she went over and bought some Humboldt paint. I wasn't paying attention to what she had gotten, and she'd gotten all these pinks and purples. She was gonna paint up the Char B to look like a Barbie car.
My son has been around it all his life, and he almost built one model kit once. And I still have it in a box in the stash because one day I'll probably wind up finishing it, but he has no interest in it at all. None.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, but
we did end up building together a couple of Star Wars kits, like an AT-AT Walker and a TIE Fighter or something.
See, what he does is he'll come into my work area where I have all my stash. And he'll just look around with a smile on his face, and he'll go, "Yep, when you're gone, this is all going on eBay." Yeah.
Well, Eric.
So thank you. Two things I wanted to mention before we leave is 250th for the Marine Corps next week.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, brother.
For all you devil dogs out there, the big one. And today's November 1st. And got a little bit of scruff today because this is the beginning of, you take a pick, No Shave November or Movember. No shaving or growing a mustache to support men's health for the month of November. And so for those of you who are interested in that, promote men's health by not shaving this month. Max, you already got your stash, so you can go for the full beard.
Yeah, it takes about 3 years for me to grow a beard. Well, guys, appreciate you coming. I'll hold on. I'll let everybody else go, but stay with me here. Guys, thanks for coming out. Hope you had a little bit of fun. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to Eric. And Ken gets 15 demerits for going to a wedding instead of coming to the live stream. Take care of yourself, guys. And as always, model on.